Welcome back. This is Conversational Pace. I have my co-host Finn Melanson here, and today we are doing the Cocodona 2025 post-race gear recap because this was a unique addition to Cocodona, and I felt like we need to catch up on some of the gear predictions, what you said you were going to use, what you ended up using, any pivots. How long have you been done for? Like, what are we?
I have been done since Wednesday of last week, so it's been 9 days.
9 days. Okay. So not that long. How are you feeling?
I feel great. And actually, I think the reason I feel great is because I've been forced to rest just beyond the reasons for the event. I got toenail removal surgery on Monday. This was planned in advance of the event, but I knew that I was going to be on the shelf for a bit. And I said, there are these two toes that have just never been good. They've always, gotten super black. They've fallen off, gotten infected, stuff like that. So I was like, you know what?
Oh,
After
interesting.
Cocodona, I'm getting them removed. And
So like never coming back.
they're never coming back, cauterized and everything. They're gone.
Wow.
And they're on the mend, they're healing, but I kind of have to walk bow-legged right now because they can't take like direct impact.
Dude, I mean, this is kind of weird, but like once it's healed, I'm going to need to see some pictures of these toenail-less toes. Like they just look like little nubs. Like, dude, do you remember, I think it's Spy Kids, the little thumbs? Like, I just feel like you like walking around like with like these things, like little thumb guys.
I never thought I'd hear the phrase Spy Kids again after like 2006, but here we are.
Yeah, but and the funny thing is, you know exactly what I was talking about. Okay, I was curious if this toenail removal surgery was because of Cocodona or not. So, but it was just like
It was pre-planned.
just good timed. Okay.
Yeah, it was pre-planned, and we'll see how it goes. There have been people in our sport that have done it with a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can tell, toenails are this like evolutionary vestige. Like they don't totally have a purpose in modern society.
I don't.
It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
don't
an
use my
elective thing.
toenails. I don't use my toenails for anything.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like your appendix. If you lose it, it's okay.
Yeah, like wisdom teeth.
Wisdom teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's cool. All right. So, Cocodona 2025 was a wet and wild year. You did pretty good. Can we just like chronologically go through the race?
Oh, please. Yeah. Wherever you want to go, I'm down.
So, what'd you start in? How was the weather at the start?
The weather at the start was fairly cool, but it was also like that the year before. It's really hard to differentiate between, 58 degrees and 52 degrees, which I think was the difference between the 2 years at the start. You're starting kind of
Nice.
at dusk. It's nice.
Yeah.
The real difference maker is like, what's it like at 7 or 8 a.m. when you're starting to get into the thick of that section to climb up into the Bradshaws. And yeah, totally overcast, really cool. I think the high for the day going into Crown King was 54 degrees. I actually got caught on a snowstorm at the
Really?
top of Lane Mountain. Yeah. Benefit of this section was, well, you needed both more gear and less gear. I actually brought some cold weather gear with me, anticipating that type of weather. And I also brought less water. So I think I was planning to carry at most 11 500 milliliter flasks. But because it was cooler, I think the height for me was like 6 bottles at one time.
Was that fine?
It was fine, and it actually changed everything. Like I think I told you in the pre-race episode that I was going to use this Ultimate Direction like 20-liter fast pack,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and I took a little bit of a leap of faith, and I stuck with the Solomon Advanced Skin 12-liter because I was pretty confident looking at the forecast that I was never going to need more than 6 or 7 bottles at a time, and it was great. I put 2 up front, I stowed 2 in that like lower sternum part in the back, and then leaving an aid station, I had 2 full, and I just handheld it until I finished them.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, and then, what extra like cold weather gear did you bring with you, and did you end up throwing it on?
So yeah, I brought like a full rain suit, basically like the Gorewear branded rain suit, their Conquer windbreaker, stuff like that. And I never felt like I needed it until the top of Lane Mountain. I was there with Jeff Garmeyer. We had paced a lot of the back half of that first 50K together, and it all kind of happened at once. And we looked at our watches, and we were, I think, a mile and a half out from aid. And I really relied on Jeff's experience because he's such a veteran, both in this race and in like just the multi-day scene. And I think we both kind of looked at each other, we're like, we got this, we can make it. But it's just one lesson from this is just how quickly you can get cold. Like before
Hmm.
we even got to that Lane Mountain aid station, I had already lost function in my hands. I didn't have like the dexterity to even collapse my Lecky poles. Couldn't grab anything out of my pack. So it was scary and had to
Yeah.
sprint basically that after taking some soup broth there and like commiserating with the aid station volunteers. I just sprinted to Crown King and was like, okay, like I was going to make this more of a NASCAR pit crew type thing, but we're going to spend maybe as much time as we spent last year, just like getting warm and making sure that I have everything I need for like the next 40-mile section, because it's your one spot where you get to interact with crew before Whiskey Row. Like the first day, like I think I said in the pre-race episode, is just all about self-care. You know, you're mostly out there on your own. So just mistakes, if you make them, can be exponential in nature if you really don't like squash them early.
Okay. Wow. So you gambled a little bit with the cold weather between Lane Mountain and Crown King with like not throwing on a whole bunch of extra layers and just being like, I'll warm up when I get there. Cause like I mean, in like a minute, it could have gotten too cold, but I guess you still had good enough legs where you could just run.
Yeah, but it turns out in cold weather terms, 10 minutes can be an eternity. Like a
Yeah.
lot can happen to your body in 10 minutes. That's a lesson I'll never forget.
Yeah. I mean, shit, dude, I hate being cold. I would probably been like started the race in a puffy.
Yeah.
Um, oh, what shoes did you end up starting in?
Started in the Hoka Mafate X, which we just finished up reviewing. Yeah, I think for this section, it was important to have the experience in them because I think they are billed as a really formidable multi-day option, but definitely out of scope. This is more like a light trail gravel type shoe, and that's actually a pretty technical section. A lot of loose rock, a lot of off camber, very steep uphills, very steep downhills. Yeah, but fairly comfortable, good upper. Didn't have any, like, came into the Crown King aid station and we'll have like a whole foot care station set up and no blisters, stuff like that. So at the very least, like if I took a hit performance wise, my foot health was solid.
Did you change your shoes at Crown King?
Kept these through
Kept them.
Whiskey Row because I also wanted the experience, because the next 40 miles is pretty flowy. You're on the Senator Highway. You're running down from Camp Kippa and Camp Wama. It's a lot of Jeep Road, Forest Service Road, double track. So I wanted to have
Okay.
sort of that like night and day experience of like the technical remote and then like the
Yeah.
gravel smooth single track.
That sounds like more of the sweet spot for that particular shoe.
Yep.
Um, what did you, so Whiskey Rose, like mile, what, 70 something, 80,
77.
77. What did you change into there?
Changed into the Brooks Cascadian 19, which comes out, I believe, later this summer. And
I think it's
again,
August, like
August.
early August.
Yeah.
Really
And
jumping the gun on that one, but that's okay.
Here's the thing, like, just to try to have like the most applicable testing environment possible, I put that shoe and also in sort of like the trail tank, long haul trucker type category. And I like, what better venue than Cocodona to test it in? So switched into that. The Mafate X had taken a pretty significant beating. We had snow on Lane Mountain, snow on Mount Union, really muddy trails. So, like, I mean, I can hold it up now for YouTube if you haven't seen the Hoka Mafate X review yet. Like,
I think this is coming out first.
this is coming out first, but it took a beating. Like, there's no lugs left on this shoe. There's some delamination of the outsole. Like, that first 80 was tough on this shoe. And then, yeah, just like the next section that I plan to use the Cascadia in, definitely more runnable, running across valleys. You've got the Granite Dells, though, which are fairly technical, and then Mingus Mountain, and then a pretty long, tough descent to Jerome. So wanted to get at least a good 50-mile section in with the Cascadia.
Were there any other gear, like surprises or hiccups during that section?
I think it was just
Because you were hitting nighttime too.
I was hitting nighttime, and I think the biggest frustration, and I don't know if there's any better way to do it, and you probably know the feeling, but it's like you get into an aid station, you spend just enough time there where you start to get cold, and for the next section that you don't really need warmth, like you're gonna like heat up pretty fast, but you still got to put stuff on anyways. So like a lot of those aid stations, Iron King, Fane Ranch, Mingus, I needed to leave with a lot of layers, but then I found myself stopping 2 minutes later to shed, and I actually stayed largely for most of the race in like it was Gorewear's like everyday tech hoodie. I had a pair of those UD shorts, and that was totally fine, but I would leave the aid stations in like, a puffy wind pants, stuff like that.
Interesting. Yeah. And then you just end up getting warm like 2 minutes later, but you almost kind of need that stuff to get out of the aid.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And again, I would have to go back and look at video to know if I'm correct. But from what I could tell in the live stream, a lot of the runners in front of me were taking the risk that I wasn't willing to take. And for some, it paid off. For some, they really suffered. Looking at Courtney, for example, it looked like she really prolonged her time in shorts and t-shirt through some really cold sections. And I wonder if that contributed to what appeared to almost be like a hypothermic type situation.
Yeah,
Same thing with Harry.
You almost like you're burning matches without even knowing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like there's a famous section where I think she's getting into Iron King and her pacer Mike Ambrose is like decked out in rain gear, and she's sort of in her classic attire of like the long shorts and the t-shirt, and it's like, wow, like, I mean, you got like at the front of a race, you definitely have to take risks, but like that was interesting.
Yeah, and it was like sideways rain on that section of the live stream too. Super gnarly. Okay, so how long did you run in the Cascadia 19s for?
I used the 19s until Jerome, so I put about 55 miles in those.
And that's about the halfway point, mileage-wise?
Exactly the halfway point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jerome, you descend a big descent into Jerome, and then you climb out
it's
of
a
it.
17-mile descent, super rocky, super technical. Only the last few miles you have, like, it widens out into these Forest Service roads and stuff. So similar, like a really great experience, similar to the first 50K where, in a lot of that section up to Mingus, you got like, more reasonable running terrain, but there it was technical. Although I would say because we were in the overnight, we were hitting a lot of these storms. Like, again, it was snowing and hailing and sleeting on Mingus. It was also super muddy. So I got the experience of trying to run through like what I would call glomp.
Yeah. Ooh.
And it was fun to compare outsoles, like which one could shed, mud faster or better.
Yeah.
What was sticking and what wasn't.
So, how did the Cascadia do with the mud?
Not good, although I'm not sure any shoe would have been in that situation. It was such a lost cause. There's a section when you leave Fain Ranch, you have this like super depressing because it seems to go on forever. It's like a 7-mile flat approach to the base of Mingus. And on paper, it's like 2% grade, and you're like, you have it all in your crew plans to run it, and you're going to get through it super efficiently. And like, we tried to run it, and instantly each shoe becomes 12 pounds. And
that's so annoying.
The most efficient thing you can do is hike 2.5, 3 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're just like forced into this gear.
Yeah.
Like no matter what. I wonder if that kind of like neutralized the field. Like everyone had to go through that section at about that speed.
Yeah. And then for anyone that tried to run it, I also wonder how much it fatigued them. Cause I remember being with my pacer. His name is also Finn, great guy. And he was really encouraging me to run, and I don't blame him. But I remember having the strategic presence of mind to think that like, we're not realizing it because it's such an unremarkable section, but I can totally see us like burning a very unfortunate match here if we try to even go 4 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, I'm really pulling out like lots of old stuff. Like, I think there's I think it's like the Family Guy where like Peter and the chicken are like chasing each other, and they're like running through a mall, and they get to like the escalator, and then they're just like, as they're like waiting, just like 9 stairs apart from each other. So then the chase can continue to happen. That's how I envision this section of mud to be, where like every single person just has to go the same exact speed through before they can go.
Totally. Isn't there like an Austin Powers scene that's similar to that too? I think I can't remember.
I don't know. Not similar, but like the steamroller where he's like,
Yes.
What did you change into leaving Jerome?
Leaving Jerome changed into the Mafate X again, but only because I knew there was going to be a river crossing there, and the Hokas I felt like had the best upper for drainage, and I kind of wanted to clean them off anyways, so put them on for a really short 8-mile section, and then through the Cascadias on all the way until I think Foxborough Ranch, so put another 40 miles in them.
Okay, so you're just swapping back and forth between the Cascadia, and then I saw a picture. You had the Arc'teryx, the Norvan Forzon. What mileage was that?
I
They looked pretty slick. I didn't realize you had the all black pair.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. I used them. I think it was from. I actually might have used it from Dead Horse to Deer Pass, and then I
What
very
mileage is
briefly
that
put
at?
147 to 161, and then I put the Cascade. So yeah, there was a brief interlude there where
Oh,
I
okay.
threw those on, and honestly, it was just out of curiosity. Like I was like, oh, I haven't thrown these shoes on yet. I don't know when I'm going to put them on again. Um,
Did you learn anything?
Dude, that was no. Just that, well, no, actually, no, yes, I did. Just that it was like, it was so weird because like the Mafate X and the Cascadia have next to no ground feel, especially the Mafate X. And to have the experience of ground feel again was like jarring. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like in a
And
bad way or a good way?
I would say in a bad way, like fatiguing. And yeah, like in that section, the mud wasn't so bad that the bigger shoes were becoming a liability. Like they weren't a
Mm,
liability there. So I was like, oh,
mhm.
like get me back in, a more protective shoe,
Get me
stable
back in
shoe
some
pronto.
cushion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that I can picture that. Like I do not like putting on a like less cushioned shoe than the one I had before.
Yeah.
Um, but you then eventually put on the Norda 005, right?
Yeah. So basically, I get to Foxborough Ranch. And before that, I would say is one of the cruxy sections of the course where you have to climb up what's called the Hangover Trail, which is, it's pretty technical.
Is that in Sedona?
It's climbing out of Sedona onto the Cocodona Plateau. It's a lot of like hand over knees climbing. You're on slick rock. For us, it was raining and foggy, so just it added
Dude,
the
that's scary.
consequence. It was very scary.
Huh.
Although we couldn't, it was pitch dark. It was in the middle of the night, so we couldn't see anything around us. So that was actually kind of weirdly calming in a way. But get to Foxborough Ranch at sort of the beginning of the Coconino Plateau, and I just made the decision to stay in a more protective shoe. I think I stayed in the Cascadia, even though the next section was going to be super runnable. I stayed in it because I was like, I still think I'm at 75 miles. I still think I'm too far out from the finish to sort of like risk it all for a more performance oriented shoe.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up regretting it because this was the muddiest section of the course, and um, like I couldn't shed anything. It was terrible. Like
Mm,
I for the next 17 miles I had to probably charge ahead at like 3 miles an hour, and I should have covered
yeah.
it at 5 or 6 miles an hour. Like, and I was ready to. Um,
That's
so
interesting.
yeah,
Huh. Yeah, because then if you just throw on the 005 on, like if they got caked with mud, it's at least a lighter shoe to start with.
and I don't know what it is about that outsole, but like I put it on around Munns Park, and again we've talked about this on in our shoe review. Like I love the 005, used it in a lot of races. If I was to critique it, I do have some issues in like more wintry terrain with that lug pattern, but it actually ended up being like the perfect lug pattern for these conditions. And it was shedding mud super well. I picked it up at Munns Park,
Mm.
went through another section to Fort Tuttle, and then to Walnut that was really muddy in parts, and it was like shedding super well. And then you feel the difference in weight savings. Like you go from a shoe that, I don't know, what is the Mafate X?
Like
Close to
12.
13 ounces,
Well, it's like
depending
12
on
and
the
a
shoe
half
size.
in my size. It's probably 13 and a half, 14
13,
in your
14 for
size.
me. You
Yeah.
go from this to you go from like 14 ounces to maybe for me 8 ounces in the Norda 5. I was telling you in our Mafate X shoe review, like I kept thinking that I couldn't run any longer because I was just like physiologically tired, but a lot of it was a technology issue. I just needed to get into a lighter shoe. And at that point I was 60 miles out, and I was like, like 60 miles, probably going to take me 13, 14 hours. Why not? Let's just go for it.
Hmm.
And yeah, huge payoff.
Ended up being all right. Because I mean,
And
yeah,
run
I
like
saw
five
you
miles
ended
an
up.
hour again.
I saw you ended up finishing in them, so they clearly worked good
Yep.
enough to get all the way to the finish.
Yep.
It seemed like as the race went on, like the weather almost got better. Like it seemed like it looked like, at least watching the live stream, like the first day and a half seemed like it was like the worst weather, and then like you kept getting rain on and off throughout, but uh, it seemed like maybe it was just like us getting used to the weather out there and watching you, but it seemed like it was a little bit better before. And then like the last day in flag looked all right. How was it actually?
Yeah. The first day was really tough. I don't know if it was just my position in the race and unfortunate timing, but I basically had rain and snow from Lane Mountain until Whiskey Row. And then the daytimes were always good. But then, like, I'm just thinking back to Sedona. I did that through the night. It rained and was just dense fog on us. Uh, the day up until the base of Eldon was great, sunny. It was the warmest it got, which was like high 60s. But then on the way up to Eldon, we get caught in a snowstorm, and that persists
really?
all the way until the descent off Lookout. Yeah, it
No
was
way.
crazy. So basically, I had either significant snow or rain on every single high point of the course from start to finish, and I could always count on the nights being, inclement weather. It was tough.
Do you think do you think you managed that better than like a hot year? I mean, like it was pretty warm the year before. Like what would you rather run in? Now you've run Cocodona in both. If you had to, if next year you got to pick the weather of either 2024's weather or 2025's, which are you choosing?
I now believe there is a lot of credibility to the argument of like, where is this person from?
Yeah.
And that dictating just like naturally what they're inclined to do well at. Like Michael Versteeg, like Desert Rat, right? Like I think he like, there's a reason he won the race the first year when they had no guidelines really around hydration and how to handle those more remote sections. Like he's just physiologically built for that. I I am less intimidated by winter conditions, I would say. Like there was a part of me that was really like, I breathed a huge sigh of relief after that first section because, like my sweat rate was less. I had to worry less about hydration. I had to worry less about salt. And I just felt confident that I could tough it through, the cold. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a big guy in like relation to other sports, but I think for our sport, I'm kind of a bigger guy. And so, I think that helps me when things get cold.
Yeah, I would 100% take the hot year because once I get cold, I never get warm like ever again. So like my approach for like this past year's Cocodona was like I need to be proactive and like make sure I never get cold, which sounded really really hard to do.
Yeah.
Um,
It
oh
made racing tough. I think it made
yeah,
being aggressive. I do think, and I know that I had plans to come into this race being more aggressive than last year. And on paper, I had like a 4 hour improvement, even though the course was 6 miles longer. But I actually, for the fitness that I had built in the months leading up, I actually ended up taking the race pretty conservatively. And that helped a ton too, because I think it's just as costly to take risks in extreme cold weather as it is in extreme hot weather.
oh for sure, yeah, and I mean, did you ever expect the race to go out? I mean, you expected the race to go out pretty hot and like aggressive. Did you expect it to be that aggressive? Because like watching it on the live stream, I was like, okay, this is faster than I thought it was going to be.
Well, it was third. I mean, I don't know if there's like a ratio that we should abide by for like for every 10 degrees cooler a section is, how
Yeah.
much fat, like how much time should be shaved off of the standards.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know I looked at my heart rate data. I ran the first 50K, I think 27 minutes faster than Arlen did
Yeah.
last year.
Huh.
And
Wow.
my heart rate never got above 138.
Yeah. That. I mean, yeah.
And I
The
think it was
cold
because of the
weather.
weather. I think the weather played a huge role in that.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I mean, obviously, Harry paid for it. Courtney paid for it. Jack paid for it, but and Dan didn't. Dan didn't. But I don't
Because
know.
you then when the weather starts getting that good and you like on paper can go that much faster, what about then like the physical toll that the actual pace takes on the body? And it's like
Exactly.
then it kind of is interesting because someone like Dan, who is probably has one of the highest floors in regards to like cruising pace, ended up doing all right. because even though it was really fast, it was still the slowest he'd ever gone out in a race
Right.
by like a pretty significant margin. That's kind of interesting. Let's talk about nutrition for a little bit.
Sure.
Did you have a plan going in? Did it change? And what ended up working?
The only plan that I had coming in was that I knew that I was going to want like slower carbs and just like more whole food sources earlier than I would anticipate and for those to be ready. So last year it was a surprise that, at Jerome, I was craving a non-alcoholic beer or milk
Mm-hmm.
or ramen. I had just never had that experience. I've always been like a drink mix and gels guy,
Mm-hmm.
and we had all those things ready. So I think from an efficiency standpoint, it was there. For example, like at Whiskey Row, I was already asking for some milk and like broth and stuff like that. I would say that the constants were I used like normal high carb drink mix until Whiskey Row. And then I just knew that my effort was going to taper off. And again, I don't know if this is controversial. This is kind of the practice that I follow, but I feel like if my effort is low enough, I can't really justify like higher carb. So I think the rest of the race, I was doing like
Yeah,
40 to 50 grams of carbs per hour. And it was
that makes
mostly,
sense to me.
yeah. And I'm not a nutritionist, so take that with a grain of salt. But basically, I switched to like 40 or 50 grams an hour. And I was also taking in quite a bit of protein. I was drinking a recovery mix. So I was doing like 10 grams of proteins per hour, and there was like an electrolyte component to it as well. And I rode that basically for the rest of the race. I think I went through 4 bags of the stuff.
God, that's so much powder.
Yeah, it was so much powder. And at aid stations, I would supplement with mashed potatoes, ramen, milk, sometimes like spaghettio type mix.
Oh, nice.
Spaghettios are great. Chef Boyardee. Chef
Dude,
Boyardee.
love Chef Boyardee.
Um,
Do you think there was anything like to improve upon under those like circumstances for like weather and stuff, or do you feel like nutrition wise you were pretty solid?
Nutrition wise, I'm pretty solid. I think like if I ever go back, I would definitely try to push the envelope intensity wise all the way to Whiskey Row. Like I would really try to give the same effort to Whiskey Row that I gave maybe to Crown King. And so I think I would stay higher carb for longer, maybe all of day one, but I would still know that like, yeah, the more whole food based approach, recovery mix strategy, that's imminent. And your effort is going to taper off. And at some point, 4 to 5 miles an hour is going to be your top end speed. And so
Yeah.
just be ready for that. Have that in the hopper, like no surprises, have your crew ready with it.
What was the most enjoyable thing that you ate while out there?
Oh gosh.
Like, is there anything like just like that it was the right time, right place, and it just like hit the spot?
Well, I was really nervous that I wasn't going to want too exotic options out there and that consistency was going to be king. But I do remember thinking, oh man, I wish I had like slightly melted Ben and Jerry's cookie dough ice cream, for example.
Wow, that's so oddly specific.
You know what I mean? Where it's
It's like a
easy to
pregnant
spoon up.
craving.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I had a hamburger out there actually. I had a hamburger and we're making a little vlog about this right now, so it'll pop up somewhere. But I think I had the burger at Deer Pass, which was mile 147.
Yeah.
So and that was, I mean, not an issue at all. Totally
Yeah.
digested. I had no stomach issues, no hydration issues, except maybe I was over urine. Like the climb up Mingus, I was urinating like 5 times an hour, which was insane. That probably was a sign that I was overhydrating,
A little bit.
but it was flawless from a nutrition standpoint.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I mean, yeah, it's funny. Like it doesn't like. I mean, we just talked for 30 minutes about Cocodona, and you didn't once mention like a disaster of any sorts.
I would say the biggest thing that I messed up was my caffeine strategy. And for example, I took a strategic nap at Fain Ranch, and that's just because I was feeling the sleep pressure. It was already 2 or 3 in the morning. If I was going to sleep, I should just sleep then. And so I got a good sleep in. But then when I woke up, I forgot to take a caffeine pill, which I had been kind of religiously doing and that I was going to do the rest of the way. And I my body was just still basically asleep. So I think I
Mm.
slept again. I was peeing all the time, and then I was falling asleep. I took like 3 dirt naps on the climb up Mingus.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to be ready to like fully throttle the caffeine coming out of these sleep sessions as well. Like,
Mhm.
yes, the sleep is restorative, but you need to clue or key your body and mind into like, okay, we're awake now and we want to stay awake.
Uh, have you heard of the caffeine nap or like a coffee nap where
Will
you
you
like
take it before slightly?
yeah, you like slam the shot of espresso right before you go to sleep and then you wake up in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Um we started having Leah do that at Further because she was falling asleep so quickly and for like 20 minutes we're like she would slam like a Martin calf goo or gel and then sleep for like 30 minutes and then wake up and then the caffeine will have already like started to hit the system and there's not that 30-minute delay of grogginess.
I
um,
like that a lot. And actually, so that reminds me, because I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are wondering about this. I think a lot of athletes in this race put pressure on themselves to like fall asleep when they choose to fall asleep and really have like the pressure of a high quality session. And one thing that we did well was we never set an expectation around falling asleep. It was always just, you're going to go lie down, you're going to close your eyes, and rather than this being a sleep session, it's just you're just off the job. You're on break, you're clocking out for 15, 20 minutes. Like for this window of time, you get a break from the mental toll of focusing.
so even if you don't fall asleep you still find it restorative in a way.
I think so, because I think the hardest part is actually just the toll of having to concentrate on something for hours on end.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's interesting. It probably increases your chances of actually falling asleep.
Exactly. Because you're not pressuring it, it actually happens.
It's like, man, are we up to three movie quotes? It's like Big Daddy peeing on the wall on the side of the restaurant. You know, if there's pressure, you can't pee. Huh, wow.
Good job, Frankenstein.
Good job, Frankenstein. Dude, Benji is walking like Frankenstein now. He's always has like toys in his hands, just handing them to me, and he's just running forward like this.
That's awesome.
He's punched me in the face a handful of times because he's still not great with like depth perception, but
Oh my gosh.
it's pretty funny. It's funny talking about like sleep pressure and all this stuff when it's like, are you a new dad? Does the term sleep pressure just make your blood boil?
Well, that I mean, again, like yeah, being a new parent was a whole different ball game because last year I felt like, and this is crazy to say, but going 2 or 3 days without sleep wasn't a crazy proposition because I was just a consistent like 8 to 10 hours a night for years on end before that in the lead up. I was like preparing for this moment of deficit. But like, yeah, probably you could attest to the same thing. Like for me, the last 8 months were really, really tough. And I can count on one hand how many times I slept restoratively in a 6 to 8 hour session, you know? And so I was already pretty deprived coming in. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was disappointed that I was already feeling it night one, you know? Whereas the previous year, I got all the way to Schneebly. I got 180 miles into the race before I felt any inkling to sleep.
Interesting. Do you think though that being a new parent and having to just, go through the standard new parent things that, aren't really, they're hard to explain until you just go through it. Do you think it mentally made you a little bit stronger for this race? And like these conditions were tough. These conditions messed up a lot of people and you seemed like pretty unflappable.
I think, and I bet you would say the same thing. I think one of the blessings of parenthood is it forces you to be less selfish by necessity because there's someone that is now undeniably more important than you in your life. And yeah, I think you definitely don't succumb to a lot of these like selfish thoughts out there. And if suffering is happening, you're more just like, oh yeah, this is just kind of a fact of life. Whereas maybe people around you, it's like, why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. This is ruining my plans. It's like, well, the last 8 months, life has been unfair. And every single day I have a plan and it unravels. So if this unravels too, like I'm okay.
Yeah. It's like, don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly.
And like, I didn't realize how much small stuff I would sweat in ultra races until like now becoming parent. Like I'm like, oh, I'm out of water. I'm like, whatever, I'm fine. Like I'm not gonna die.
Parenthood is harder than Cocodona
Dude,
by
I
a
think you
lot.
might be right. Like, and that's
By a
like
lot. This was a
Props.
vacation. This was a vacation from parenthood.
It's pretty, yeah. Like anytime you step on a star line, even if it's like the highest pressure thing, it's like, oh, this is such a privilege to just like go out and like wander through the woods. And I that's a testament. Like that's like mad props to all the parents out there. Like you can do Cocodona. That's Finn's endorsement there.
You can. Although I also think parents have an advantage that they don't acknowledge, which is that this comparative to the rest of their life is easier. So they should, it's almost less impressive, I think, because
It's all about perspective.
it's all
It's
about
all about perspective.